The November and December Lincoln Douglas topic has been released. Resolved in the United States, the public's right to know ought to be valued above the right to privacy of candidates for public office. Today we'll be looking at the negative warrants LD debaters should consider when they're writing their cases. But before we dive into the warrants, if you are unsure of what a warrant is or how identifying them can strengthen your LD cases, check out our video, What is a Warrant? In that video, you'll learn how warrants build bridges between your claims and evidence, helping you to win more rounds. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next video covering the affirmative side of the round. Now, let's get to the warrants. Why not start with framework? While there's a lot of semantic argumentation that can be pursued by the negative, it probably won't play well in a value-based format like LD. The neg is best suited to accept a wider definition of democracy, yet emphasize the politicians are citizens too. In other words, democracy requires the rule of law. In such, the rule of law dictates that they hold the same protections of privacy as any other citizen. Jeremy Waldron, writing for the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, points to the rule of law's requirement of its citizens to accept legal norms even when they conflict with their political interests. This concept provides a philosophical protection for a candidate's privacy. This next warrant may seem a little out there, but looking at the current state of the political landscape in the United States, it seems to be true. This warrant relies on the idea that lack of public trust builds public engagement. In a 2017 paper examining a pending public trust crisis, Professor Tom Vandermeer found there is an upside to the decline in public trust, stating, "Skepticism stimulates public engagement and signals a willingness to judge political institutions by their own merits." He also points to studies that find liberal democracies tend to rank lower on indexes of public trust internationally. Based on this warrant, the NEG can argue that favoring the individual right to privacy actually fuels public civic life, as opposed to fulfilling an insatiable public frenzy for knowledge. Number 3 could serve as the core of any negative case on this resolution, but even if it's not the central argument, it will still have to be proven. This warrant is that privacy is a human right. The UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights lists the right to privacy in Article 12. The hurdle the negative must get over is the Declaration's use of the term arbitrary in describing breaches of privacy. The affirmative could argue that an individual willfully deciding to run for public office overcomes the arbitrary requirement established by the UN. However, a neg response is found earlier in the Declaration where it states in Article 2, "Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status." A candidate cannot give up their right to privacy as defined by the UN merely based on political participation. Just as a voter has an assumed right to privacy in a free and fair democratic election, the candidate should enjoy the same expectation. On this note, it will be important for the negative to provide a clear distinction on what the public does have a legitimate right to know about its public officials. The fourth warrant, while one of the weakest warrants on the list, can communicate the negative position to the judge best. This warrant is that a lack of public restraint leads to a lack of good candidates. Writing more than a year before the political episode the United States just displayed in the confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Reverend Richard Brand pointed to an invasion of privacy as a deterrent for people to run for office. He wrote, "No self-respecting, nice person would subject herself to the abuses of a campaign. To be lied about, to be exposed completely, to have all your high school mishaps brought up, to have any and every position you took in college now trotted out and twisted just takes a lot more ego strength and self-confidence than most people have. And no one wants their families subjected to all that attacking either." While there are limits to this argument, there is a relatable truth to the idea that allowing an unrestrained public to run roughshod over the individual will limit the people willing to serve. Finally, the most obvious warrant of the resolution is the clash between individual versus collective rights. Ultimately, the openness of the resolution, by its avoidance of tying itself to a particular political institution, points the debater towards a clash of theory as opposed to reality. The use of the word ought furthers the legitimacy of this strategy. In most cases, this should benefit the negative provided she or he is able to avoid specific populist uses of political knowledge and at the same time establish the arbitrariness of public knowledge through specific questioning of boundaries. This is a warrant that will be won in the cross-examination period, so the negative should come with a specific questioning strategy that's goal is to pin the affirmative into a position on specific boundaries. So there it is, 5 negative warrants for the new Lincoln Douglas topic. Resolved, in a democracy, the public's right to know ought to be valued above the right to privacy of candidates for public office. Being able to identify and address the warrants in a round enable the debater to better connect with the judge. Ultimately, it's about winning more rounds. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's video on the affirmative side of the argument. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of what we have to offer at Real Critique, check out our website. There you'll find everything from LD theory to criterion analysis. Also follow us on social media. Finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel and press that like button.